Hello, my name is Reverend Dr. May Elise Cannon. Today is Wednesday, April 10th. Today is the 187th day since the attacks by Hamas on southern Israel. Today is the second day of our advocacy summit here in Washington, D.C., as we commemorate our 40th anniversary as Churches for Middle East Peace. It has been powerful and moving to see people come from more than 35 states all across the United States, coming together, representing our 35-member communions, Protestant, Catholic, Orthodox, evangelical peace churches committed to pursuing an end to all violence and killing, an end to the bombing and ground invasion in Gaza, a return of the hostages, calling for a comprehensive peace and an end to the occupation and oppression of the Palestinian people. Our work at CMEP is not only focused on Israel-Palestine, but we work on Armenia, the oldest Christian country in the world, the economic crisis in Lebanon, human rights concerns in Egypt, anywhere where there's conflict throughout the Middle East, Syria, Yemen. Of course, we've been paying the closest attention in the last 6 months to what's happening in Gaza and Israel. We wanted to thank every single person who has been present, especially our Palestinian speakers, Reverend Dr. Mitri Rahab, Reverend Dr. Jack Sarah, Shireen Halal Awad from Bethlehem Bible College. Omar Shaban has been with us from Gaza. He was able to evacuate shortly after October 7th. Tamar Haddad, our very own staff member from Churches for Middle East Peace from Jerusalem, our many partners, allies, human rights activists, church friends, bishops, denominational leaders, board members, leadership council members, regional coordinators, and staff. We're so very, very grateful. An update from the past 24 hours or so. In terms of concerns about Iran's counterattack in response to Israel attacking the consulate next to the Iranian embassy in Damascus, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei in Iran said on Wednesday that Israel's, quote, evil regime made a mistake and must be punished, and it shall be, speaking about their attack on the Iranian embassy compound in Syria. Khamenei later wrote on X that it's regrettable some Muslim governments are helping the Zionist regime amid the conflict in Palestine. Those helping the Zionist regime are helping bring their own destruction. You may recall that Iran had not only threatened Israeli assets, but US assets as well. Israel's foreign minister, Israel Katz, said in an interview with public radio that Israel will strike back in Iran if the latter attacks Israel. In Lebanon, UNIFIL commander Lazaro said today that the danger of escalation on the Lebanon-Israel border is real, and he called for a return to the cessation of hostilities and a move towards a permanent ceasefire and a long-term solution to the conflict. The Hezbollah-affiliated Lebanese newspaper, Al Akbar, reported that the Lebanese money changer, who was believed to have transferred money to Hamas, was found shot dead last night in a villa in a town called Beit Meri, east of Beirut. The Saudi Al Hadath outlet reported that it was a Mossad assassination. In Gaza, Hamas political chief Ismail Haniyeh told Al Jazeera 3 of his children and several grandchildren were killed in an attack in Gaza City, while an Israeli source said Hamas may derail negotiations over the incident. Haniyeh said it will not impact Hamas's demands. They have been demanding a road to a permanent ceasefire, and also that all of those displaced from the north might be able to return. Haniyeh, I assume that's what he's referring to. Haniyeh, who lives in Qatar, told Al Jazeera that his sons were martyred on the road to liberating Jerusalem and the Al-Aqsa Mosque. U.S. Aid Chief Samantha Power acknowledged on Tuesday that we are seeing a sea change with a sharp rise in humanitarian aid entering into Gaza, and she said that the higher level of aid should be sustained and increased further. She may be referring to a few days ago, 200 trucks were allowed into Gaza, which was a sharp increase from past days. The Israeli military said that the decision to withdraw IDF soldiers from Gaza's Khan Yunis was made in order to refresh troops and to enable fighting in Rafah. There is still an intention for a full ground invasion in Rafah. U.S. Central Command said that it airdropped 50,600 meals into the northern Gaza Strip yesterday. The UK Prime Minister Sunak said that Prime Minister Netanyahu needs to do more to alleviate suffering in Gaza, amid mounting pressure over the UK's decision not to suspend arms sales to Israel. According to the health ministry in Gaza, the death toll is now 33,482 Palestinians killed, and those wounded is at 76,049 since October 7th. Hostage negotiations and conversations around a ceasefire at the request of the far-right ministers Ben-Gvir and Smotrich. Israel's security cabinet met to discuss the proposed hostage release deal following negotiations in Qatar, despite fears that information would leak and sabotage the talks. Senior security cabinet members were considering opposing the latest proposal because they believe its first stage will end up being its last. The deal would free only 40 hostages in its first stage, and many other living hostages are still in captivity. It's believed there could be as many as 100 still alive. The U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan said he spoke with Qatar's premier and pressed Doha to get an answer from Hamas on the potential deal as soon as possible. In terms of a Rafah operation, one of the biggest things we're concerned about on the horizon, after Netanyahu said Monday that a Rafah operation is happening, a date has been set. Blinken said that they don't have a date, at least not one that had been communicated. What we have is an ongoing conversation. Sources said yesterday that Gallant, the defense minister, told Lloyd Austin, our defense secretary, there's no specific day. U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan said there still has not been a credible and executable plan to account for Rafah's evacuation and civilian care. War Cabinet Benny Gantz, minister, said that the IDF will enter Rafah and will return to operations in Khan Yunis, and Israel's operational freedom in Gaza will be maintained. Sounds like the White House and Israel are going back and forth. The White House said that Israeli and U.S. officials will meet on the planned operation in Rafah in a couple of weeks. So sounds like there will be a delay. In Israel, Yifat Calderon, the cousin of Ofer Calderon, who's being held hostage in Gaza, is staging a solo protest outside of the Likud headquarters in Tel Aviv. She plans to demonstrate for 3 hours and 7 minutes, a minute for every day, that the Israeli government abandons the hostages who remain in Gaza. The families of hostages are blaming the government for the reason that the hostages have not been released. U.S. President Biden criticized Netanyahu over Israel's conduct in Gaza in an interview on Univision, saying, well, I will tell you, I think what he's doing is a mistake, and I don't agree with his approach. GOP House Speaker Johnson said, shamefully, since October 7th, Biden has transformed into an anti-Israel president. There's really no other way to characterize it. During a press conference with UK Foreign Secretary Cameron, US Secretary of State Blinken said, it remains astounding to me that the world is almost deafeningly silent when it comes to Hamas. In Syria, the IDF said it attacked military infrastructure in Syria used by Hezbollah, adding that the IDF holds the Syrian regime responsible for everything that happens on its soil and will not permit the Hezbollah terrorist organization to establish itself on that front. That's a direct quote. And in the West Bank, the Palestinian Red Crescent reported that 3 Palestinians were wounded by gunfire in the village of Burqa near Ramallah after being attacked by Jewish settlers. CMEP has been watching also 2 Palestinian Christian young women were arrested in the past few days, and we have been keeping watch with their church community, Christian young women with their Christian community. We have been seeking to find out where they have been taken. They've been arrested by the Israeli military, so we monitor that situation closely. Thank you for your prayers. Please pray for us tomorrow as our group will be on Capitol Hill advocating for a comprehensive ceasefire, calling for the withholding of weapons, the release of hostages, immediate and adequate humanitarian assistance in Gaza as we work toward a comprehensive resolution to this ongoing crisis.